It's been 6 years since the masterpiece that was Breath of the Wild, and the fact that Tears of the Kingdom is right around the corner is super surreal. Since Tears of the Kingdom is a direct sequel to Breath of the Wild, I thought it would be a good idea in this video to go over what happened in Breath of the Wild for a refresher, as well as some things you should know about Tears of the Kingdom that isn't a theory, even though I love theorizing about this game, and it's kind of bittersweet that that part is now over until the next Zelda game or DLC for Tears of the Kingdom. The main thing you need to know about Tears of the Kingdom is that it is a direct sequel to Breath of the Wild, much like Majora's Mask is a direct sequel to Ocarina of Time. Tears of the Kingdom is set to be a few years after the events of Breath of the Wild, and according to the official website, we will begin our journey as Link on one of the Sky Islands they have shown off so much in these trailers. We'll have to get new abilities before we can return to the surface world to begin our epic adventure. Aside from that, we still really don't know much about the game as a whole, other than that the Zonai do play a huge role in it, Ganondorf the man is resurrected, Link has a new arm, and Zelda falls into an abyss. And if you don't know who the Zonai are, you're in good company, because no one really does. All we know is that they were an ancient civilization of Hyrule that vanished one day, leaving behind ruins. And guys, I have tons of videos here on the channel deep diving into the trailers we've seen for Tears of the Kingdom, some videos going over some things we have theorized about Tears of the Kingdom, and I'll link those in the description if you want to check those ones out after this one. They've done a great job at keeping much of this game a secret, all the while keeping the hype build up for it. They did similar things for Breath of the Wild, and we all see how that turned out. And if you haven't played Breath of the Wild in a while, odds are there's a ton of information you forgot. And it goes without saying that going over the Breath of the Wild story, there will be spoilers for Breath of the Wild, like the entirety of the story. If you haven't played it yet, just warning you now. Most of the game's story takes place in the past, where you as Link get a cutscene by either talking to NPCs such as Impa or King Rome, reclaiming Divine Beasts to get memories, or mainly by recovering memories by visiting various locations that you have images of on your Sheikah slate, which you can either just stumble upon or show Pakango, a painter located at different stables, in order for him to give you clues to find them. The game starts off with Link waking up inside of a strange temple as the voice of Zelda tells him to open his eyes. You don't know much of what's going on, but as you venture out, you are met with an old man. We'll talk more about the old man later, but for now, we have to go to the second big cutscene we get, and that is with the Elder Impa. Impa's cutscene is largely about a real event that happened 10,000 years ago in the land of Hyrule, where a warrior with the soul of a hero and a princess with the blood of a goddess fought to seal away the primal evil known as Calamity Ganon. She makes it clear that 10,000 years ago, they knew of the Calamity Ganon's return. So the people of Hyrule, who were back then very highly advanced in technology, prepared by building autonomous weapons known as the Guardians, as well as 4 divine beasts which were piloted by 4 great warriors. The divine beast unleashed power on Calamity Ganon, while the Guardians helped to protect the warrior with the sword who seals the darkness, alongside the princess to seal away Calamity Ganon. But we know that this wasn't once and for all, as even they knew that Calamity Ganon would inevitably return someday. This brings us to 100 years ago, when Hyrule tried to follow in their ancestors' footsteps and seal away Calamity Ganon once again. Unfortunately, this time they failed. Eventually, the old man reveals that he isn't just any old man. He is King Rome Bosphoramus Hyrule, Zelda's father, and the last leader of Hyrule, who died in the fight against Calamity Ganon 100 years ago. And the old man was only just a form that he took to protect Link, since he doesn't have much of his memory at that point and he doesn't want to just absolutely blow his mind. He has a cutscene that goes in detail about the events of the Calamity that happened in Link's life. King Rome tells Link that the Calamity Ganon is actually a form of the Demon King, which was born into their kingdom but has transformed into malice, creating the insanity that you see in Breath of the Wild. The stories of the events of 10,000 years ago were told in legends and fairy tales up until the events of King Rome's day, but that wasn't all. There was also a prophecy, and the prophecy stated that the signs of a resurrection of Calamity Ganon are clear, and the power to oppose it lies dormant beneath the ground. Because of this prophecy, Hyrule at that time decided to escalate and dig, thus finding the guardians and divine beasts of their ancestors 10,000 years ago. Because of the story of the princess and the appointed knight, they knew that since there was a princess set to inherit a sacred power and a skilled knight, they were destined to follow the path of 10,000 years ago. They even picked 4 champions: Rivali of the Rito race, Daruk of the Goron race, Mipha of the Zora race, and Urbosa of the Gerudo race. Unfortunately, even with all their weapons and everyone fighting, Calamity Ganon had a plan they never saw coming. Calamity Ganon took control of the Guardians and Divine Beast with his malice, turning them against Hyrule. All 4 champions, King Rome, all those residing in the castle, and obviously many others eventually died. Link also collapsed while defending Princess Zelda, but luckily Zelda survived to take on Ganon, thus sealing him away for a time. Link was placed in the Shrine of Resurrection for 100 years until he was completely revitalized. King Rome finally tells Link that it's up to him now that he's awake to help Zelda since her power is growing exhausted. If her power is exhausted, Ganon will regenerate and completely consume the land. But because Ganon is so strong and he still has control over some of the Guardians and the 4 Divine Beasts, he advises you to take back control over the Divine Beast and help defeat Ganon once again. There are a total of 18 memories you can recover in Breath of the Wild, all of which take place before the events of Calamity Ganon to right up to when he returns. These memories provide us a unique sort of behind the scenes perspective, and unless you get them in complete order from 1 to 18, which is very unlikely, you probably miss some things when watching through them. At the beginning, it shows Zelda praying over Link since he is the appointed knight, but it's not a willful prayer. She is very reluctant and hurt. Urbosa mentions that Link is a physical reminder of Zelda's failures. This is proven in the third cutscene when Zelda starts off all cheery talking about how they've learned to control the Divine Beast, but then it shifts as she says there is a story that Link should be able to hear a voice inside of the sword that he wears on his back. Then she very smart alecky asks if she can hear it yet. Hero. And this is because Zelda is supposed to have the power of the goddess by now, but she doesn't. So seeing Link as the appointed knight with the sword that seals the darkness makes her feel like she's a failure. Because of this failure she sees herself as, she seeks to learn all that she can about TOTK and all the weapons they are going to use to fight against Ganon. Sort of devoting herself to becoming a scholar, and we'll see later how that could be an issue. In this memory, she's trying to access a shrine with her Sheikah Slate, but it's said that only the one with the appointed sword can enter. But she states that designs can always be worked around, clearly showing that she's trying to help fight against the return of Ganon just in case she never gets her power, and she's really devoting herself to finding out about this tech. And the memory with Urbosa really shows how bad Zelda does want her powers, and why it hurts so bad that she doesn't have them yet. She's passed out with Urbosa, one of the champions, who is portrayed as sort of like a mother figure since Zelda's mother is no longer with her. And Urbosa says that she's passed out after a long day of surveying and straight up tells Link that the sword on his back is a living reminder of Zelda's failure to her destiny. We can get an outside perspective of how bad Zelda wants to awaken her power because we get insight that she once passed out in freezing waters trying to access her sealing powers. The next memory is when Zelda really starts to come around to Link. She's being chased by the Yiga clan after she seemed to go on her own research, but Link does come to rescue her. She finally looks at him like she's thankful for him and that they're now on the same team, and she realizes that Link is there to protect her. And we can really see how dedicated Link is to his duty and his role of protecting Princess Zelda, as the next memory shows how many bokoblins and Lionels Link has slain to protect her. And Zelda alludes to how these monster attacks are on the rise at this point, and definitely an omen to Calamity Ganon's return. As Link and Zelda are in this memory, Link trains and Zelda notices how he is so dedicated. And she really admires him for it, but you can tell everything is starting to really take a toll on her as she subliminally asks that what if one day Link decides he wasn't meant to be a fighter. But the only thing people ever said about him was that he was destined to be one, so she wonders if Link would have chosen a different path had people not said that. She's clearly struggling with the fact that she hasn't got these powers yet. As Link and Zelda walk along the castle in this memory, we can see that the Guardians have awakened. They will be able to use them to help fight against Ganon. And obviously Zelda is super excited about watching them. She feels comfort in knowing that they'll be able to help even if she doesn't have her powers. That is until King Rome appears and we see how this want to be a scholar is a problem between them. King Rome is not the least bit happy that Zelda is watching this. He states that she has an unfulfilled responsibility to her kingdom. He thinks she needs to be trying to find her power instead of wasting time watching these Guardians. Of course, he's being super harsh, but he is also probably scared for his kingdom. He knows his daughter has to have this power for them to seal Ganon, and she hasn't gotten it yet. Zelda then lashes out saying she's tried and prayed her heart out but hasn't gotten anything. Rome then forbids her to have anything to do with the Guardians and says that the Gospers say that Zelda is an heir to nothing but failure, and that it's woven in her destiny to prove them wrong. And of course, this is probably hard for Zelda as she really wants the power, but she just can't seem to get it. And we see this up close and personal in this memory as Zelda is trying to pray and receive this power and it just doesn't work. She even gets super mad saying she's wasting her time and eventually just asks what's wrong with her. Link and Zelda now look over to Mount Lanayru and she explains that it is named after the goddess of wisdom. But there is a specific decree for this spring. No one is allowed under the age of 17, for only the wise are permitted a place upon the mountain. She says that tomorrow is her 17th birthday and she's going to go up there even if she's not very hopeful that it could work. The next memory is just that. They're walking back down from the Spring of Wisdom, and when Daruk asks Zelda if anything happened, Zelda then answers no, she still hasn't received this power. After this, the earth shakes, Calamity Ganon fully returns, the champions are ready to go, but Zelda obviously looks terrified. And it's clear why. She doesn't have her power yet. When Urbosa offers to take Zelda somewhere safe, she refuses because she wants to help. This just shows how resilient she is to help. Although she doesn't have her power and is terrified, she still wants to help them take down Calamity Ganon because she knows it is her destiny. And at this point in the story, things are looking pretty bad. It seems like all hope is lost, and considering we know the story and these are just memories to further show us what the behind the scenes look like, we know that for the most part, all hope sort of is lost at this point. We can just see the absolute despair in this cutscene as Link and Zelda are running away in the rain. Everything looks crazy. Link is just trying to protect Zelda, but Zelda slips off Link's hand, and she talks about how the Divine Beast Guardians and everything has turned against them, and the worst part is that the champions are trapped inside the Divine Beasts. This memory is very dark, and rightfully so. The world is going to be obliterated. Zelda is overwhelmed with grief because she thinks that everyone has died because it's all her fault. She couldn't harness the power, therefore everyone she knows is going to die. Devastation just continues in our next to last memory as Link is shown with malice-filled guardians everywhere. Link is about to pass out because he's been fighting so hard, and although Zelda tells him to just go and leave her there, Link chooses to stay and protect Zelda. When a guardian comes, Link is in no shape to fight, but Zelda jumps in front of him, and this is the moment she finally gets her power. This disables all the guardians in the area. Link then collapses in Zelda's arms, and the sword starts glowing. Now Zelda can hear the voice inside the sword. It tells her that they have to take Link to the Shrine of Resurrection, and when the Sheikah come to check on Zelda, she relays the message to them saying that they have to take him to the Shrine of Resurrection and says that it's up to them to take him there or they'll lose him forever. Our next cutscene is more related to what the voice inside of the sword says, as it tells her there's something else she must do. She then lays the sword in its resting place, knowing that although Link will lose his memories, he will come back for it, and then she goes away to seal Ganon until Link's return. Back to the present day, 100 years after this calamity we have seen, Link now has his full memories, and it's up to him to go and stop Calamity Ganon and help Princess Zelda as her power now grows exhausted. As Link goes through and takes back the Divine Beast, you learn a little about each champion and get different abilities related to each one. Daruk's protection for Daruk, Mipha's grace for Mipha, Urbosa's fury for Urbosa, and Revali's gale for Revali. And when you finally go to fight Ganon after, if you're like me and a lot of others who played Breath of the Wild, you really delayed it just so you can enjoy the game and explore more. When you get there, Zelda says that she can no longer hold Ganon and it's up to you to stop him. After you beat the Calamity Ganon, you have to now face Dark Beast Ganon. And Zelda explains that this is a pure embodiment of the ancient evil that is reborn time and time again. In this form, he gave up reincarnation and assumed this enraged form. Luckily, Zelda helps you defeat Dark Beast Ganon with the help of the Bow of Light. Zelda then comes back and seals Dark Beast Ganon one last time. Link and Zelda reunite after the fight as the spirits of the champions and King Rome look up on them. And if you received all the memories for this game after you beat it, you will get a separate cutscene where Zelda explains that they're going to Zora's domain because Divine Beast Vah Ruta has stopped working. Zelda then mentions that while Ganon is gone, there's still much to do. They can restore Hyrule to its former glory. Then she mentions that she can no longer hear the voice inside of the sword, but she's now okay with that because she assumes that after 100 years, her power has diminished a little bit. All of the memories restored, all of the Divine Beast rescued, Ganon sealed away again, the Breath of the Wild story is now over. I do have some awesome videos going over Tears of the Kingdom trailers in depth, as well as some theory videos for Tears of the Kingdom. If you guys would like to check those out, you can click right here. If you like this video, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more awesome Tears of the Kingdom content. You all have an awesome day and God bless.